breaks a tackle, 10-5, touchdown, San Francisco. Feels great, baby.
Yeah, it feels right to see the Niners back as the number 1 seed in the NFC as well. Believe it or not, they have not clinched a playoff spot. They're 11-2, but the only team in the NFC that can say they're in is the team the Niners beat in New Orleans on Sunday, the Saints. But with a win over the Falcons on Sunday, San Francisco is in. By the way, we have the official, as we welcome in Steve White here, the official playoff scenarios for Week 15. You can find them on NFL.com. Nice suit tie combo.
Yeah, we got the same thing going on here, Andrew. We're looking kind of, like minds.
Wow, dapper. All right. Let's talk about this Niners team. You were there. And when they beat the Saints. All these injuries, Weston Richburg is now out for the year, but they have stayed patient because they've had injuries in years past, and they didn't force the issue. Made some free agent splashes, Quan Alexander most notably. But they have slowly built this roster, and here now they're looking at 12 wins.
Yeah, Andrew, this is such an example of being patient with the process. And one, it starts with owner Jed York. Look, he had 2 one-and-done coaching hires in Chip Kelly and Jim Tom Sula. So people were wondering what this leadership was going to do. So they signed Kyle Shanahan to his first head coaching job and John Lynch to his first really football executive job, gave them both 6-year contracts and said, we're going to have a joint deal and we are going to put this through. So what do? They go out there losing ball games. They trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. They get him. Garoppolo gets hurt the following year. They're still patient. Instead of having a knee-jerk like, oh, my gosh, here we go again, that we're not winning ball games, they stayed with the patient process. Garoppolo gets healthy. He's slow but steady. But as you mentioned, they build pieces around him. They add a Quan Alexander, a D Ford, steadily but surely, not necessarily any super high-priced free agents, but people to complement the draft picks that they stuck with. And you see the game plan was to build the offensive and defensive lines through the draft. That's another part. Also talking about patience. Remember, after last season, there was a lot of talk about them possibly getting rid of defensive coordinator Robert Saleh because the defense really hadn't come together. Jed York told me one time before a game, he's getting it, just wait and see. Who's the hottest DC right now in the NFL? Robert Saleh. Andrew, we know we're already hearing his name as possibly getting some head coaching interviews after the season. So what's happening with the 49ers now is a prime example. Be patient with the process if you have a coordinated plan. And look, you may have the top team in the NFC as a result.
And maybe some of the best moves are the ones that aren't made. They have admitted, John Lynch has, that they were at least discussed. An Odell Beckham Jr. trade, it didn't happen. Browns made that trade. You see where they are now. Granted, they are still technically alive, but the 49ers are the 1 seed in the NFC, one that Steve White saw up close and personal on Sunday. Again, Steve, good-looking suit. Let's see what Charley Casserly is wearing. Does he get the blue? Okay. Still Natalie clad. Hi, Charlie. Let's talk about that defense. I didn't get the memo.
That's what I want to tell you.
There was technically no memo, Steve, just like mine's here. Okay. He mentioned, though, the defense and staying patient. All those first-round picks up front, they are paying off.
Well, they are. No, there's no question about it. This defense relies upon the defensive line as the go-to part of it. Now, then how do you give up all those points? Well, I'll tell you what, you're playing one of the best designers in football in Sean Payton. The guy's brilliant. The other guy's brilliant, too, Shanahan, okay? However, here's the weaknesses. Mostly zone defense. They don't disguise it. You get Breeze playing quarterback, Sean Payton designed it, you're going to hit holes in this defense, and they do it right here. See, you got wide open, the backside of the zone there. That's it. Now, here's the other thing. You want to run the football, you can run it at the inside linebackers. That's the weakness of this defense. You get to them, and that's where you run. So basically, you got those 2 concepts. The other thing is the zone. You can beat that because they don't disguise it. You run at the inside linebackers. And number 3, when you match up their corners one-on-one and their inside linebackers, they were beaten Sunday, and they can be beaten again. So there is a way to do it. And show them the game plan.
Yeah, and you know what? Matt Ryan was able to hit a couple of deep balls last week as well against the Panthers. That's who they get coming up on Sunday as the Niners have a clinching scenario yet again. Thank you, Charley Casserly, who's back a little bit later with the keys to the game for Thursday Night Football. Speaking of which, Lamar Jackson popped up on the injury report. What's the latest with the Ravens quarterback? And will the Jets have a healthy running back? One that isn't sneezing or bowling? We're live with them as well, straight ahead.
Jackson Fakes the handoff, rolls to the right, lobs it to the end zone. Nick Boyle reaches up, bobbles it.
3 yards out perfectly.
He is playing lights out. That is a tremendous throw by Devlin Hodges.
Devlin Hodges is still very much the Steelers quarterback. Mike Tomlin didn't even have to say it today. The Steelers get the Bills on Sunday night, as Hodges has really outperformed the other two guys. Granted, small sample size, but the defense has helped a lot.
I've always felt good about good defenses controlling the outcome of significant games. I believe that that's an axiom of football. I mean, I think that's never going to change. I think if you got a good defense, you got a chance in any circumstance.
Mike Tomlin earlier today as the Steelers get ready for a Sunday night game against the Buffalo Bills, which is not something the Bills are necessarily used to. But that defense travels, that defense does well at home. But Didi, how good is this defense?
Well, Andrew, if we look at defenses this way, there are defenses that teams win with, and there are defenses that teams win because of. So Mike Tomlin has led several defenses like that, both back at Tampa Bay and earlier in his career in Pittsburgh. I tried to lead him to a link to this defense because, of course, as much fun, Andrew, as you and I are having watching Duck Hodges and these young offensive players, this offense is not putting up great points. This offense is not putting up great numbers. It's the defense that is driving this Steelers ship. Well, Mike Tomlin shut me down. He said that those other defenses we were talking about, they solidified their reputation in December and January. He said they made significant plays. They delivered in December and January. This defense right now, it's certainly delivering. It's making significant plays. It's the reason that the Steelers are winning. But Mike Tomlin wants us to hold off a little bit. But let's just say this, Andrew. If the Steelers are indeed able to contain Josh Allen, who is far more mobile than perhaps he gets credit for, and this Bills defense Sunday night, it would truly be a feather in their cap. And just a couple numbers for you, Andrew, before I send it back. Every single game this year, the Steelers defense has produced a turnover. 5 times they have had at least 5 sacks and at least 2 turnovers in a game. And they currently lead the NFL with 48 sacks. So the front end, the back end working together and keeping this Duck magic alive with what they're doing on the other side of the ball.
And they've had turnovers by Joe Hayden to end each of the last 2 games as well. That offense might get a little better if James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster are out there. Any update on them, Aditi?
Well, we're actually going to see them. Mike Tomlin said today that he does indeed expect them to practice. He couldn't say how much he expects them to practice, but he said he will be back out there, and then the quality of their work, is the way that he put it, will dictate whether they will indeed play. Now, the Steelers have been getting contributions from 4 different running backs. Their young wide receivers, James Washington and Deontay Johnson, have certainly stepped up in recent weeks. But when Tomlin was asked if he could really use these 2 players, he said a lot.
Yeah, they can never hurt. Usually Mike Tomlin says the quality of their preparation will dictate their participation. Something like that. It's a Tuesday staple. Aditi Kinkhabwala, great to have you back for that Tuesday presser. Thank you, Aditi. The Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide, is a big deal. It's not about stats. It recognizes NFL players who, yes, exhibit excellence on the field, but whose passion to impact lives extends beyond the game and has led them to leave a legacy in their communities, and a positive one. Here's last year's winner, Chris Long.
Number 56, Chris Long!
Hi, I'm Chris Long, winner of the 2018 Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide. It's meant a lot to the foundation. It legitimizes our work for some people. Chris Long Foundation is probably best known for our work in the clean water space. We founded Water Boys, which recruits players from around the league to leverage their platform and engage fans and deliver 1 million people with the gift of clean water, which is life-saving and community-altering. My role models growing up were probably my parents and my mom, especially. Just somebody who I take after a lot, and somebody who's really charitable, somebody who's a volunteer type person, worked a lot with the Boys and Girls Club, and just somebody who brings a lot of light and life into every room she enters. I get approached a good bit by young players. If I'm going to give them advice, it's lean on your older teammates, find out what they're doing. If you're starting your own thing, engage people around the league, engage your peers, not just people in your city. Multiply your impact.
That's Chris Long, last year's winner of the Walter Payton Man of the Year, presented to you by Nationwide. This year's nominees, the full list, all 32, revealed Thursday on Good Morning Football.